Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In this video I would like to go a little bit back and talk about constraints, and the reason is because it's very important, and I've seen some people who are actually struggling with this, and especially understanding constraints and what it means and how to apply them. So basically in general, constraints, the meaning behind this word, it's also kind of limitation or restrictions, but there is also kind of limitation and restrictions. You have, for example, if you have a geometry, you can limit the shape of the geometry and the movement of the geometry, and in order to really understand it, it's much easier to show it. So let's create a sketch in this plane here. Okay, so we have our constraints here. There are different kinds of constraints, and we also have the dimension. It's also part of the constraint family. So I'm not going to go through all of them here. You can play with them yourself. Some of them are kind of common sense, and you can find all the information actually on the Fusion 360 website, exactly what each of them means. But I'm just going to show you explain to you the principle. So let's just say I'm just going to go and gonna do something here. So we have this geometry, and right now there are no constraints. Actually, there is only one here, and this is the perpendicular constraint. Okay, I'm just going to remove it. And as you can see here, I can move it everywhere. I can change the shape, I can change angles, I can do many things with it. And if I'm going to select everything, I can also move it around. So there are no constraints. So we have constraints, and we have a geometry which is constrained, and we also have full constraint. Full constraint, you're gonna notice that when the line is gonna change to black. At that moment, you're not going to be able to change nothing. You're not going to be able to move it. Only manually, you're going to have to change the dimension, for example, or angles that you have put into the geometry. So let's just say, for example, here, I'm going to start to create some different kind of constraints. So I want, for example, these two lines to be parallels, okay? So I've chosen the parallel constraint, okay? But as you can see, I can still change here the distance between them, okay? And so next, what I'm gonna do is I can also change, see the length of those two sides. So I'm gonna go and choose, gonna dimension them. So this one is gonna be, now another thing is, as you noticed here, when you're creating the dimension in this kind of situation, look at the numbers. It's not the same. Oh, sorry. I'm gonna go back again. So pay attention to how you're actually dimensioning this one. If you're not, because then you can create the wrong dimension, okay? So make sure that it's straight. Or maybe not, it depends what you're looking for exactly. But yeah. Just as a side note. So let's say this one is going to be 38, and this one, again, as you can see, this one's going to be 32. Okay, so now I know, as you can see, I cannot really change the length of these two anymore, but the distance between them I can. So I'm going to have to add another one, because these two connected to this one, so I can just go straight here and constrain it, give it 54. Good. So now we have, you can see, because I'm holding it for the top and I have constrained here the dimension, so I can actually move it. What about this here? Now this, because we constrain most of the sides here, so these two are not going to move anyway. So we can, for example, try to give it an angle, and let's just say 110. Which is fine. I can still, you see, can change the angle of this one. But if I'll try to give an angle to this one, let's see, 120, it's also not a problem. It's because the length didn't change. But if I'm gonna go back and give this one a dimension, I'm gonna say this one is gonna be 11 millimeters. And now I'm gonna try to give it a larger angle. So you see what happened? It didn't actually change. Now it just changed the whole shape, and it's not good. I don't like it. So we have to also constrain here in the top in order to make sure that it's not going to move, okay? So again, this is sometimes the reason, as you can see here now, it's going to be over constrained because we already have this one here. So we have to remove it and then constrain this side here, give it, let's just say 90. And now if I would want to constrain this one, it's going to tell me it's over constrained. There are too many of them. So now I can just go and play with it the way I want. But as you can see, so this geometry constrained, the shape is constrained, but the position is not constrained. If we relation to other geometry, it's not constrained, or to the joint on the region here. So that's why it's not black, because we can still move it around. So in order to make it black, I'll just say it like this, fully constrained, then again, so we have to continue in constraining it. For example, we can say that this point to this point, we can give it some kind of a distance, okay? Let's give it something like this. Let's say 20 millimeters. Still nothing, because what's gonna happen is if I see, I can still move it around this axis here. So I need to continue constraining it. So it's not gonna move, which means I need to fix another point. So I'm gonna go from here. Let's just try, for example, like this. See if it's gonna be 57. Now I changed the angle because I changed the distance, but it's still not fully constrained. As you can see here, I can still somehow, somewhere I can maybe move it, and it's not gonna let me. So what I'm gonna do is, let's try something else. Let's go back. Okay, so let's try and constrain it maybe like this, and boom. So what I was actually missing, so I have also the height here and the distance. So now it's fully constrained. How do I know? Because the color turned into black, which means even if I select everything, I cannot move it. So that's basic. So that's it's quite simple. That's the difference between fully constrained and constrained geometry. Okay. So remember to constrain your geometries. It's very important because you can accidentally, when you're creating another sketch beside it, or changing an angle or something like that, and then it can really screw everything up. And so do that, okay, for your own sake. This is best practice. This is really basics, and that's what one of the first things you learn, how to constrain your geometries. Okay, now there is another thing that it's called fix. Now if I'm gonna just say I'm gonna remove all those dimensions, there's something called fix. If we select everything and we right click on it, then you can see here fix, unfix. You can also find it here to the right under the constraint. It turned it into green. So every time you see green, it's fixed. You cannot change it, you cannot, nothing. Okay, this is where it's gonna stay. Most of the time we're not using it because the models that we are building, they are more dynamic. We're changing them along the way. So that's why it's not going to be a good idea in most cases to use fix. Sometimes it does. It's good to have it. For example, when you're importing sometimes, I don't know if you noticed, a CSV file, then it's going to be fixed. Okay, it's going to be a green color if you notice that. And if you're wondering, oh, why I cannot change anything, so that is why. So you're going to have to either select everything or select only one part of it and do unfix. Okay, now this one is black because it's still fully constrained, because it can steal the others. It depends on the others connected to the other lines here. So I cannot do anything to it anyway. What I can do, it is, for example, maybe create some kind of a line, for example here, and then I can go to the break command and then break it. You see? Now I can start move stuff around. Okay? And yeah, so this is the fix, and that's basically, it means we're fixing it and the geometry is not going to move or change the shape. Okay, so now to conclusion again, constraints, it's about controlling the fixing or limiting the shape of the geometry and the movement of the geometry in our canvas here, okay, or in relation to other geometries, or in relation to the joint region here. Okay, so yeah, this is it for now. So remember, when you're creating geometries, when you're working on your project, remember to constrain your sketches. It's very important. Okay, yeah, and good luck. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the comments area, and hit the thumbs up or down, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.